Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to Movie Dissect. In today's episode we'll be talking about Finding Forrester, a film directed by Gus Van Sant, a beautiful classical film from the 2000s. At the same time we'll be paying tribute to an actor, a great actor, who starred in the films like The Offense, The Hill, The Man Who Would Be King, The Untouchables, and who is globally known as the legendary James Bond himself, Sean Connery, who sadly passed away recently. He's not only our favorite James Bond, but he's also a genuine movie star, and that's why we wanted to have a look at his last great film. Note his last great film. And the reason I'm saying that is because in 2003, Connery has made his very last film, which was called League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. But man, after this film, he just threw in the towel. He just couldn't put up with the shit of Hollywood anymore. And so Finding Forrester became his last will. Aesthetically, it's a very beautiful but heavily underestimated film. Let's talk about it. Let's start off by saying that the role of William Forrester, the protagonist of the movie, was clearly written for Sean Connery. Sean Connery is playing this Scottish writer who, as a young man, wrote a book called Avalon Landing, and the book was admired by literally everyone around him. However, surprisingly enough, the writer decides to retreat and retire from writing forever. And thereafter he just spends almost the rest of his life in his apartment in the Bronx. Fun fact, this reminded us of the reclusive J.D. Salinger, a real writer in the real world who also as a young man wrote Catcher in the Rye and then retreated to his flat in Manhattan for the rest of his life. Now back to the similarities between Forrester and Sean Connery. It's actually interesting how many similarities there are between an actor and a fictional character. For example, at the start of the film, William Forrester has been living in the Bronx for the past 30 years as a voluntary exile, even though his homeland is Scotland. And Sean Connery is no different. The guy had been living abroad for 60 years, far away from his hometown of Edinburgh. However, it would be only fair to note that probably Sean Connery's quarters, mainly in the Bahamas and New York, were slightly bigger and a little bit more comfortable than Forrester's apartment in the Bronx in the movie. By the way, the fact that Sean Connery had to leave Scotland had nothing to do with the book, of course. It had to do with the tax burden. However, his love for Scotland remained untouched, and it actually even grew over the years. Because as a celebrity, he has been supporting the Scottish Nationalist Party for like an eternity. And that made him anything but popular with the English. Where Forrester had to deal with jealous colleagues, Sean Connery was actually taking all of his criticism from London. The government of England was hating on his passive role in the pursuit of Scottish independence. Initially, he was not even awarded the title of Sir because of that, and his annual donations to the Scottish Nationalist Party came to an end when the British government has cut off foreigners' financial contributions to political parties. The sad part is that the one and only James Bond never got the chance to return to Scotland, at least not alive. His family though did let the media know that they would bring his ashes to Edinburgh when it's possible. So at the end, Connery will return to Scotland, just like Forrester did in the last sequence of the film. Speaking further of similarities, at some point in the movie you see a young Forrester playing golf. Almost like Connery from the James Bond period when he discovered his passion for golf. And while Connery was enjoying sports like golf during his stay in Spain or tennis much later in his life, 17 years of not having acted passed. So we actually think Connery knew that this film, Finding Forrester, would be his last testament. And the director Gus Van Sant knew it too. After all, as an actor, Connery couldn't get any further because Forrester was just this dramatical and fictional mirror to Connery himself. A mythical actor plays a mythical character, or James Bond plays Salinger. But what is Finding Forrester now really about? In the third scene of the movie there is a lesson about Edgar Allan Poe. And this of course is not a coincidence. After all, The Raven is actually essential for the movie. Because The Raven, Poe's poem, is an expression of his depression after his wife passed. So in the poem, the Black Raven comes knocking on the writer's window. It is despair that's knocking on the window. So in this movie, the director Gus Van Sant gave it a big twist. The Raven is now the young black Jamal who comes knocking on the door. But this time he is not bringing despair, he's actually bringing hope. At the same time, the Black Raven is looking for wisdom, which is also kind of similar to Poe's poem, where the raven is actually sitting on the bust of Pallas, a Greek goddess who is associated with wisdom. And Forrester, in his turn, is actually looking for such a raven. And this could have been seen from the scenes where Forrester is studying birds, especially the one that has strayed from the park. So you can see the film is unique in wanting to look way further than just racism as a social problem. It looks into every one of us who claims he or she is not a racist to expose the small prejudices. A key is one of Forrester's statements. Do you know what people are most afraid of? What they don't understand. And when we don't understand, we turn to our assumptions. The film begins with the challenge for Jamal to enter the apartment of a stranger. For Jamal's young friends, there is a freak behind the window. Jamal is afraid of what might happen if his friends discover that he is a literary genius. But he is not afraid to walk the streets at night. He is also afraid of an interracial relationship with Claire, who moreover belongs to a different class. Forrester is afraid of the new world that has grown around him for years and refuses to leave his apartment. His competitor and admirer, Crawford, is afraid that his vision of the world will be sacrificed should it turn out that Jamal is really a literary genius. So Finding Forrester suggests that we can only bridge the unknown by wisdom, hope, and courage that results from wisdom. And these will not only ensure that you will become race and class blind, but will also help you to find your own unique voice. Another lesson of the movie is that we can find a new family after having lost the original one. Wisdom will open our eyes, which will help us to open new doors. This is something that Connery had to learn as a young man who was almost a nobody, but who kept reading a mass of books and ended up there where he ended up. So, if there was one more mythical character that Connery had to play, aside from James Bond of course, to end his career in beauty, it had to be Forrester. And Connery himself knew it right away as well. After all, he was the main driving force of the movie. If James Bond is Connery's Avalon Landing, then Finding Forrester is his sunset. Guys, this was Movie Dissect for today. If you liked the video, please like. If you really liked it, then please just smash the subscribe button and also let us know in the comments what you think of the video. See you in the next one.